name is Cathy Benton, and I'm the chair of the Handbell Association of Greater St. Louis. On behalf of our organization, I would like to thank the St. Louis chapter of the AGO for inviting us to participate this year as part of your virtual February Flourish event. We all know this has been an interesting year. Our normal handbell ringing season shut down last March, along with everything else in our lives. That means we had no bells in the church and the school. All the community handbell ensembles had to shut down their seasons, and for many of us, those seasons have not resumed. As the church went online, though, handbell directors began to look for ways to use their ringers in their services. Primarily, that involved using less people and finding creative ways to socially distance the ringers. For this presentation, I wanted to share some ways our local handbell directors were using bells again. I solicited videos from our Hagstall board members and will be sharing clips from those throughout this presentation. I will tell you that I did have to shorten a few of the clips just in the interest of time because I wanted to use everything that had been submitted. I will also kind of warn you that I know Christmas music is past, but a few of the clips are Christmas pieces, but you could use the concepts in any kind of music. Early on in the pandemic, the Handbell Industry Council and the Handbell Musicians of America put out a lot of information on how to safely ring. Social distancing, wearing masks and gloves, using a larger space to rehearse, even rehearsing outside was suggested. Actually, ringing was considered safer than singing, and we were kind of challenged to take some of the singers in our choir that weren't able to participate and turn them into ringers. Bell choirs often share bells and tables, but we were advised to find music that didn't have any shared bells and space ourselves further out than we would normally do in a normal bell choir situation. Our first piece is a 2-octave bell piece presented by some ringers from Missouri Baptist University. I'm their director. Our bell choir is called the MBU Ringers. We usually have 12 to 13 ringers each year. They're all scholarshiped. A lot of them are music majors. And when we started school in late August, the challenge I had was to find ways to safely ring, but to also keep them interested. Several of the low bass bell ringers had never even rung anywhere but in the bass, so I had to actually convince a few of them to be willing to play in the treble clef. This first piece is a spiritual, Joshua Fit the Battle, arranged by Richard McKee. It's a level 4 piece and it's a lot of fun to play. I will tell you that the upright bass part is not published, it's actually not even written out. I have another ringer who is an instrumental major, and I just gave him the task of writing his own bass piece. And it went so well, we just decided to include it for you on this video. Most of us in the handbell world have stories about how we can't play on various Sundays of the church year because of our setup. Normal setup requires lots of tables and space in the church, and often that can limit when and where we get to play. But by using smaller ensembles, with and without tables, sometimes we have a little bit more flexibility. And for recording services, you don't even have to be in the sanctuary. Our next group of pieces shows some ways smaller groups have been able to play during these months. All of these pieces are by the composer Larry Sue. Information about his website is on the handout included in the February Flourish booklet. All of his music is downloadable, and there's a large variety of things to choose from. A lot of the music is very easy to put together in one rehearsal, and often it's very good for new ringers. They don't have as much to deal with, they don't have as many notes to look at, they don't have to share bells, change bells, accidentals, etc. The first example is from Our Savior Lutheran Church in Vinton, where Julie Bender is the director. It's an arrangement of Thaxted, played by 4 ringers, and it was recorded at one of their rehearsals. It does use tables, but you'll see on the clip that they are actually using a lot less space than they have set up for. The next Larry Sue piece is an arrangement of the Te Deum. This was submitted by Burnell Hackman from Peace Lutheran. You'll see 3 ringers using music stands, socially distanced. The piece only uses 8 bells and was recorded outdoors. Mary Sue piece is an Argentine folk song titled Song of Hope. This was recorded in August at Central Presbyterian Church, where I'm the bell director. At that time, I only had a few ringers that felt comfortable participating, and our service was still in line. So we played this with just one short rehearsal. It's written for only 6 bells with piano accompaniment. Piano accompaniments kind of fill things out and make it sound like a little bit more of a traditional piece. We used this for the postlude in that service, and we were actually standing in the choir loft, which never happens in a normal church service for us. We usually have to play down in the front or at a different location. So you'll see us in the choir loft, Song of Hope for 6 handbells and piano. In addition to playing pieces in the service, there are plenty of other spots in a church service where we can use bells. They can accompany hymns and anthems. They can be used as introductions to hymns. They can be used for processionals, descants, lots of creative ways. There's an example in the handout for a collection called Organ with a Touch of Bells. On that you can use 2 or 3 bells and play lots of pieces, so I would refer you to the handout for that. Also, some of you might have attended last year's February Flourish, where one of our board members, Nancy Helmick, did a session on Less Than a Full Choir. She cited several resources, including the Ring Along series from Cantabile Press, which I also included on the handout. This is a series to accompany singing where you can use ringers who don't even have to read any music. This would be a great way to recruit some new ringers. If you'd like any further resources or information, please feel free to contact me or Nancy, and we would certainly be happy to help you with that. Our next 2 brief examples are from Julie Bender at Our Savior Lutheran Church. The first example is a small choral ensemble random ringing on the refrain of a sanctus, Isaiah, mighty seer in the days of old. Random ringing is just what it sounds like. Basically, you give the ringers a bell and you tell them to ring whenever they want to. in that clip watching his mom doing her ringing. The second example is a small group of 3 ringers playing with a hymn that is from a choral arrangement by John Benke of For All the Saints. On the handout, there are many references to 12-bell music, which usually refers to music written in the treble clef. There are various combinations of bells used. Often the range is from F5 to C7, but sometimes there are different combinations. For example, C5 to G7, D5 to A6. There are general hymn collections and then very specific collections. So you can find music specifically for Christmas, Lent, Easter, and any other time of year. Many of these pieces are reproducible, and many of them include piano accompaniments, which you could actually adapt for an organist. Several of them include music that spans the church year, so for around $50 or less, you can get a reproducible book that has music for Advent, Christmas, Lent, Epiphany, Pentecost, and on and on. Our next example is a 12-bell piece from Dolan Bayless and his ringers at Kirkwood United Methodist Church. It is an arrangement by Jason Krug of the hymn, Glorious Things of These Are Spoken. You will notice that there are 6 ringers, 1 table per ringer, and they're all socially distanced. Also on the handout are various examples of pieces and collections that expand on the 12-bell concept to include music for up to 2 octaves of bells using bass and treble clef. This next selection is an example of one of those. We're going to hear a small group from the MBU Ringers playing an arrangement of O Sacred Head Now Wounded, which would certainly be appropriate for the upcoming Lenten season. It includes piano accompaniment, and it's from the reproducible collection called Ringing with Keys by Lloyd Larson. There are a few bell changes in this selection, so we do have a few ringers using tables. I will also tell you that we learned this in one rehearsal, and there's one ringer on the clip who had never rung a bell until we taught him this piece. So this kind of repertoire is really good for new ringers. Also, the piano parts are really nice and add a lot to the mood and the character of the music. Our next group of pieces includes music for bell tree, bell solo, and bell duet. A bell tree is a metal stand where you hang the bells on the stand and you play them with a mallet. There's a lot of music published for bell tree, often for one ringer alone. Our example was submitted by Jill Kirk, Director of Music at Mount Calvary Lutheran Church, but the ringers are from Holy Cross Lutheran Church in O'Fallon. They're using 2 bell trees on stands that they actually made themselves from IV poles. They're playing an arrangement of God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen from a Bell Tree Christmas book by Linda Lamb. Solo handbell ringing is more difficult, and often handbell ringers in churches don't get a lot of opportunity to do solo ringing, but there is a lot of music available. Most of these solo pieces have piano accompaniments. Our next example is a solo ringer from Bill Wade's church, St. Paul UCC in Belleville. She is playing a solo arrangement of Do You Hear What I Hear, arranged by Kevin McChesney. Bell duets, like handbell solo pieces, are often pretty difficult. Many of them also include piano accompaniment, and as in solo ringing, there often are not as many opportunities for duet ringers in the normal church setting. But solo and duet ringing is a great way to keep those more experienced ringers challenged. I have a duet team working on a Bach convention at the college, and they're really having to spend some time on it. This next selection is really special. I think you're going to love hearing this one. It's a husband and wife duet team from Dolan Bayless's church playing an arrangement by Matthew Prinz entitled Be Thou Still. It also has piano accompaniment, and you'll see this is not for beginning ringers. last group of video clips will showcase full choir pieces. The first example was submitted by Bill Wade from St. Paul UCC. It's an arrangement of For All the Saints by Jacob Weber. You'll see 10 ringers playing from music stands spaced across the church. There aren't any bell changes and the ringers are wearing masks. Another great thing about this clip is notice the choir in the background. The next piece was submitted by Burnell Hackman from Peace Lutheran Church. This is a John Binky arrangement of What Child Is This for bells and strings. It's a beautiful piece, and again you'll notice that the ringers are on music stands spaced out across the church, and then you can see the strings in the background. So this is What Child Is This? last example is from the MBU Ringers. This is an all-malleted arrangement of Ding Dong Merrily on High by Valerie Stevens. There are shared bells, but they're played with mallets, so it's not the same as picking them up. If you've never done an all-malleted piece, my college kids love these. They're a lot of fun, and there are a lot of them that are published. So we'll end with Ding Dong Merrily on High. I want to thank you so much for joining us as we've looked at various ways to keep ringing. On Saturday's Zoom session, we'll talk about several other things we've learned during this time of pandemic. We'll also hear comments from ringers and directors about how this time has challenged us and what we've learned from going through the process. We'll also be able to have a question and answer time, so feel free to come with your questions. I want to thank the board members again for their help in submitting videos, and I want to give a special thanks to my husband Ray, who edited and produced this for us. I hope to see you all on Saturday, February 13th at our 10 o'clock Zoom session.